Let's continue now by getting into the actual soldering, but we have to do a little preparation first. So we need to size the headers and make sure we don't, when we clip them, that we don't make a missile and hurt somebody. So let's take the PSoC 4 prototyping kit. That's what this board is called. And so here, let's take this header, and notice that we're going to actually solder in the shorter side of the pins above the plastic black holder. So first, here's how I might decide where am I going to do the clip. So notice we don't need to put pins here, but we want them in the longer section of the board. So if I plug in to the PSoC 4 like that, and then it looks like you can see the last one is there. So I'm going to put my diagonal cutters, and there's a little ridge. These headers are designed to be cut to size. And it's really important before you clip, you hold both sides, so again, you don't create a target or a rocket, a missile. Cut it like that, and let's see, looks like I did that correctly, okay. But that's just how to do that. We would do that for both sides. And so now notice we have an odd size, and you can see over here, we've got a collection of them. We can practice soldering with these, especially for beginners. So let's now do that, a little bit of soldering practice using the perf board. So okay, how about I take this one we just did, and now notice I'm going to use the breadboard as a way. Sometimes you might like to use the third arm, but I think the breadboard is very helpful because we can hold the pins in rigid. Because later on when we put these in, we want to make sure that we don't have them skewed, but rather we want them to be at a 90-degree angle so that they will properly plug into our breadboard. So that's why even to get started, we can use the breadboard as a guide. So notice the perf board has metal on one side but not the other. And so this has already been practiced on by students. So again, I'm going to put the small side pins. In this case, I'm going to come from the underneath and push them up. So this is, again, the metal side. You can see there's 6 pins. I guess I was going to do this larger one, wasn't I? Let's do this longer one, the one we just clipped off. Okay, so now you can see I have those pins. And now I can come over to the breadboard and just kind of push down until it goes in, and then just put something underneath it. Let's practice trying to get a 90-degree angle. So I want to support the far end of the perf board just gently. So I put a couple things under there, and you can see it looks like it's resting nicely. Now, basic soldering. So we take a piece of solder. Some people believe you should cut it and not break it, but I do it both ways. Main concept is that I'm a right-handed guy, so here's the soldering iron, and in recent years, I don't know how far back this goes, but I was trained on using a wet sponge. We want to keep a clean tip. You want to be careful not to burn yourself or anybody else. So we usually want to have, it's called to tin the tip, to keep it clean. So we use solder to keep it clean, and we usually will do a wiping stroke. You usually like a little bit on there to be shiny. You can see the flux smoke come up when we touch it. So the idea is, if, for example, using my fingers, if this is the pin, then we want to come in with solder on one side, and for me, the right hand, I'm going to bring my solder tip in here. And you don't want to stay too long on the metal because you don't want to burn the board underneath. So we somewhat be calm, but we want to put the solder down. You'll have a little solder on your tip, and then you're going to come to the opposite side of the pin and touch that solder bit that's on your pin, on your tip, and then you'd like to have the heat. It will heat the pin and draw the solder from the other side, melt it and draw it across. That's at least the concept. Sometimes I help it. So we might need to zoom in here a bit. So again, I kind of wipe my tip, put a little fresh on, and our goal is to have a cone-shaped result that's shiny. So if you can come in here really close, I'm going to do the rightmost pin. And another thing I'll tell you in a moment is that we're going to do the far end pins first. So I've got my solder there. This is such close work that I'm going to help it a little bit. And so I'm putting a little extra in and pull it away. Now I might have gotten a little bit too much. It's just a little bit of a round cone, but if you look, it's cone shaped and it's shiny. Now when doing these full PSoC or the LCD, it's a good practice to just tack in the opposite ends first to make sure you feel like you got the 90-degree angle from the board, because it's easier to unsolder just 2 pins than if you solder them all in and it's really a crooked mount. So you can see my board's resting pretty in a stable manner. So I come to the leftmost. Again, I'm going to